Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamie and today we are doing one of my favorite things in the world. We are doing a big book unhaul. Yes, it is fall now. It is the season of change, and I guess for me that is manifesting in wanting to change up the books that are in my house. I have had this massive stack of books that has been sitting on my shelf just waiting to be unhauled. Now, one thing about me, I am a ruthless unhauler. Pretty much if I did not love that book, I don't want to keep it. I don't like to keep books that I didn't really love. And I have so many books on my TBR shelf that I'm hoping are going to be huge wins and they will need to take the space on my shelves. So I am pretty ruthless when it comes to unhauling. I'm not afraid to unhaul a book even if I paid full price for it. I mean, it hurts me a little bit, but I will do it because I feel that is very necessary. And I don't know why, but recently something crazy has come over me and I have just been buying books like crazy, and that means I need to combat that wild impulse by getting rid of some books. First off, I'm going to go through the books that I have read that I'm unhauling, and then I do have another stack of books that I have not read but will be unhauling. So first up, the first book I'm going to mention is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a tiny short horror novella. It's actually a cottagecore horror novella. It's actually very interesting. I wanted to love this so much more than I did, and honestly I was going to keep this, but a dear booktube friend, Michaela from Michaela Reads, she loved this book, and I have a signed edition that I got last year during my indie bookshop crawl. So I just thought, you know what, she would love this more than I would, so I'm going to be sending this to her. Next up, a book I read recently, that is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I found this okay. I don't know. I mean, obviously, since I'm unhauling these books I've read, I obviously did not love any of them, so that's kind of obvious right off the bat. But this one I thought was fine for 100 pages. I did not need more than 100 pages, and this goes on for nearly 400. And it was just too much for me. I don't know. I'm kind of confused with my own personal taste right now because I'm not super into cozy books, and this is ultimate cozy, Hallmark movie, fantasy, romance, cozy. It's like the most condensed version of a cozy book. And I have been reading a lot of cozy books lately, and I don't know why, because that's not something I usually read. I picked this one up based completely on the cover. It was a complete impulse buy, and while I did enjoy my time with it fine enough, I just did not love it enough to keep it. So I'm gonna pass it on. It has beautiful sprayed edges. The cover's gorgeous. I bought this completely on a whim, and I just think that somebody else is going to enjoy this more than I did. Next up, a book that I read during my summer ween vlog, that is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is a recent release. It came out this summer, and let me tell you, this was one that was just complete impulse buy. I walked into Barnes & Noble, it was right on the shelf, maybe the day after publication day, or maybe even the day that it was published, and something just came over me. I was just I need to read that book. And it did. It was very popular this summer. It continues to be popular throughout the summer. I guarantee this will be in the Goodreads Choice Awards. And I read it. I just thought it was okay. This is about a summer camp in the 50s, 60s, or 70s. There's multiple timelines, many years. It's a summer camp. A kid goes missing, and there was a child that went missing at that summer camp 20 years ago or something. So it is a mystery. It's a more, I don't even know, a lot of people have said this is a literary mystery. I don't know if I would really call it literary because the writing is not good enough to be literary in my opinion. It's it's more just contemporary, very simple, basic, straightforward writing style, but it is very complicated in its many characters, far too many characters in my opinion. And several different timelines, and there wasn't enough intrigue in here for me. I needed, for something this long and for something that's a mystery, I wanted there to be a lot more tension, and there just wasn't. It's just very flat in my opinion. So I'll be interested to see how everybody react to this book by the time we do get to the Goodreads Choice Awards. And then we have Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. This is about a scientist woman who goes to this like Scottish village because they are reintroducing wolves into the territory. It's really cool because it is a lot about like nature and science, which I really appreciated. And then there's also kind of a murder mystery because one of the townsfolk ends up dead and she has to prove that it wasn't one of her wolves that killed them. So I think like this premise really intrigued me. I was like, this sounds perfect for me. This sounds like something I would love, but I don't know, the murder, like the mystery just like didn't end up being that interesting to me. I also just wasn't connecting with the writing style, which is really sad because this was like a highly anticipated book for me. And I do still want to read, you know, I want to give this author one more chance because she has another one that I am interested in as well. But I don't know, this one is like really sad for me because I was hoping this was going to be a 5-star read. I was hoping I was going to love it. I don't know. Something about this just didn't connect with me, and that makes me really sad. Next up, we have This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno, another book that I read during Summerween. This was a book that was on my TBR for a very long time. I don't know. Something about this book specifically was calling to me. Like, I would see it on the shelves. I hadn't heard a lot of people talking about it. I didn't know that much about it, but I was like, I don't know. I want to read that book. Well, okay, so the back of the book pitches this as a kind of haunting story involving like technology. Like there's like an Alexa type device that's like speaking to this couple and it's like kind of ghostly and weird. So I thought this was going to be like about like a literary horror about this couple who are married and this haunted house. I thought it was going to be literary haunting is what I thought it was. That is not what this is. This is so weird. This is like absolutely unhinged levels of weird. This is a grief story. Very, very heavy theme of grief in here. I don't know. I mean, like, I didn't hate it, but it was just so much weirder than I was expecting it to be. It's absolutely bizarre. I couldn't even follow what was happening for most of it. My brain could not comprehend this story. It was so crazy. And I think at the end of the day, like a lot of people have loved this. I just think this is just too weird for me. I struggled with this one and I don't know who I would recommend it to. Next up we have When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen. This one also makes me really sad because I was expecting this to be a 5 stars. I adore the cover. Like, this one makes me really sad actually because the cover is like stunning. But the truth is I just did not like this. This is about a Black woman who gets invited to her ex-best friend's wedding that is being hosted at this like ex-plantain. So it's kind of, you know, talking about that weird disconnect between the kind of like wealthy place that it is versus the like horrors that happened there in the past. And it is kind of haunting a little bit. To me, it just was not scary enough. I think I wanted a lot more haunting. I wanted a lot more horror. And there is definitely like absolutely horrific things happen in here, but it wasn't the kind of horror that I was expecting it to be. It's not an easy read. It's very, you know, sad a lot of the times. I don't know. I just did not love this the way I wanted to love it. And I don't like horror books. It's honestly, I read a lot of horror books and not a lot of them land for me. So I can't really say that I'm surprised, but I am very sad about it. Okay. I think people are going to be mad at me for this, but I am unhauling Crying in Hmart by Michelle Zauner. I know everyone loves this book. I know everyone says this is like their favorite memoir. I'm happy for you if you love this book. I was pretty underwhelmed with it, to be honest. I think my expectations were so high because of how much people love it. I think I was expecting a kind of like master class in memoir writing, and that is not what this is at all. This is a very personal, almost like diary confessional type of story. This is Michelle Zauner, who is recounting her experience with her mother dying of cancer, which also I can't deal with anything that has any kind of medical sickness, cancer, anything like this. I just can't deal with it. So that was just not enjoyable for me. And I know that the point of the book is not for it to be like enjoyable in that sense because it is such a heavy topic, but like I just wasn't getting a great experience out of it. I didn't think the writing was strong, like, at all. I think it's just like so straightforward and simple. It's just not my kind of memoir. I much prefer my memoirs to be done in a more creative way. I don't like them to be so like linear and straightforward. So all in all, this just was not the reading experience that I wanted to have with this. But I know a lot of people love it and I can totally understand why. And like, I'm happy for those people, and I'm happy to pass this on because I'm sure that it will find a home, another reader who loves it much, much more than I did. And then we have Piglet by Lottie Hazel. This was a 2024 debut that I read earlier on this year, and honestly, I kept this one for a long time. I was not going to part with it, but I kept looking at it on my shelf and I just kept being like, I don't know. I think as time has gone on, I just don't care for this book as much as I did when I first read it. Also, I think another reason is because I recently read The Rachel Incident and I loved that book, and I felt like The Rachel Incident was hitting a lot of the same themes or feelings that Piglet does, but I felt like it did it better. This follows the story of a woman who is on the cusp of getting married when her husband tells her some very unfortunate news, and it kind of sends her into a spiral. She's considering her relationship, she's considering what she is going to do, how she's going to move forward, and this spiral continues to manifest in her relationship with food. I thought this book was good, actually. Like, I don't have anything really that negative to say about it. I didn't connect with the character as much as I would have liked to. I think this was a perfectly fine book, but it just, you know, it just wasn't strong enough to stay on my shelves. So I absolutely didn't hate this, and I think if you like contemporary fiction, if you like the themes that I mentioned, you could enjoy this. I thought it was fine, just not enough to stay. Whew. Okay, and then a book that has made it through a lot of my unhauls before, but I'm finally saying, gotta get out of here. That is The Gathering Dark, an anthology of folk horror edited by Tori Bovolino. This is, and I didn't know this at the time, this is actually a YA horror anthology collection. I didn't know that it was YA. I thought that this was adult when I bought it, and come on. I mean, I bought it because I'm obsessed with this cover. It is maybe one of my favorite covers of all time. I love that it's pink and that it has this like witchy folk vibe to it. I just love it so much. Unfortunately, I did not love hardly any of the stories in here. I think that there were only two that I actually like enjoyed. One of them was by the author or by the editor, Tori Bovolino. She does have a story in here, and that was my favorite one by a mile. Most of them are really not good. I actually really hated most of this book. I kept it though because I love the cover, and I have a very, very small YA collection. So I was like, well, I don't feel that bad about keeping it because my YA collection is so small. Like, you know, it's better to have something. But then I was thinking, why? I always have in my mind that there's going to be this like imaginary person, like someone is going to walk through that door and want to borrow something off of my library. So I was like, oh, I kind of want to have something that would suit everybody. But that's just unrealistic and it doesn't make any sense. No one is coming to my library anytime soon. And besides, this is not a good book. So I'm going to pass this on, and I'm very sad because the cover is stunning, but you know what? There are other pretty covers out there and there are other better books. Finally, the last of my read books I'm unhauling. This is from a while ago. This is The Truth About Magic, Poems by Atticus. This is just silly. This is honestly really silly. This is a YA poetry collection. Well, I guess it's not technically YA, but like it's very like Tumblr modern poetry, and I really loved it at the time that I read it, like when I was like in, you know, high school, college, something like that. I was like, this is like so fun, so deep. As I've grown as a person, it is not deep to me anymore. I think that a high schooler would love this, and it doesn't need to be in my library anymore. Okay, now we're getting into the books that I have not read that I'm just going to be unhauling without really trying, which kind of sucks. Or I do have some DNF in here, so I have tried some of them. So I don't have as much to say about these ones, so we'll just keep this moving here. Okay, this is my DNF pile. These are books that I actually did try, but no. First one is Lovers and Liars by Amanda Ear Ward. This is a wedding book. It's about sisterhood, contemporary fiction. I read like the first 10 pages and I was like, I can't stand this writing style. I don't care. I actually just do not care at all. This is going away. Next I have The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. Sad, because this was a very highly anticipated book for me this year. This was one of my most anticipated reads of 2024. I got a good like 60 pages into it and I was just like, it's very confusing. It's very dense. I don't know if dense is the right word, but there's a lot going on. It's confusing and I just was not being like hooked enough to care. And I heard some reviews, I heard some people talk about it, and it didn't seem to really get better as it went on. So I was just like, if I'm not enjoying this now, I am not going to push through it, so I'll just pass it on. This one's really hard for me because I really love this cover. That is The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff, another cover that I'm just like so obsessed with. But me and Lauren Groff don't have a great history. I have not enjoyed the two previous works that I have read from Lauren Groff. And I really picked this one up because I love the cover. It's also a survival story about a young girl who she needs to live in the woods, or she has to escape through the woods or something. So it is a survival story, but I think it's okay for me to admit that I'm just not going to like Lauren Groff, and that's fine. Like, I can just pick up other authors. So actually I have this one, and then there is one on my other shelf called The Matrix, which I have heard perfectly fine things about. Like, both of these books I've heard good things about. But I just think it's okay that I don't connect with this author, and I don't have to keep trying. So I think I'm just gonna get rid of them both. Next up, this is one that probably, people will be upset about, but oh well. That is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a sci-fi fantasy Sherlockian, not retelling, because it's not a retelling of Sherlock Holmes, but it is Sherlock Holmes inspired. It has like the Sherlock Watson dynamic. But it is set in a fantasy world where a plant is killing somebody. I don't know. Honestly, this was not bad. I liked the writing. I didn't get that far into it. I probably got like 60 to 100 pages, something like that. I was listening to it on audiobook. I didn't have that much of a problem with it, other than the fact that fantasy is not really my thing. Like, I had a hard time with the fantasy elements of this. I thought that there were some cool and clever ideas. Like, honestly, I would probably recommend this if you like fantasy and you like Sherlockian murder mysteries, which seems like, again, something that I would have liked. I just like couldn't care about the fantasy in here. Cool book, but it's really long and I'm gonna pass. Okay, now this stack of books is books I have not tried a single page of, so they are just books that I'm just done with. Most of them, no, not most of them. All of them are from my Aardvark book box. So here's the deal with my Aardvark box. I've mentioned this before, but I was gifted an Aardvark subscription for Christmas last year, and I didn't realize when I asked for that subscription that it came with 3 books per month. Well, I just don't need 3 books per month, and honestly, I didn't have interest in 3 books every single book box. Sometimes I did, but most of the time I didn't. So I did just grab a lot of these books because I had already paid for them. But I have not a lot of interest in actually reading them, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pass them on. So that's kind of the situation there. And a lot of these actually have sat on my shelf for a while because I thought about reading them. For example, Where You End by Abbott color. This is a thriller that was in one of my very first aardvark boxes, so I have been hanging on to this for a long time. I kind of kept it on my shelf because I was like, ooh, if I'm ever in the mood for a thriller, I will pick this one up. But in all of the months that I've had this book, I have never had the desire to read a thriller, and I have not thought about this book even once. So it's very clear to me that I am not going to pick this book up, and so I will pass it on. This one, okay, this one. This is How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. I know a lot of people have been reading this book recently. It's, this came out just a couple months ago, maybe even like 2 months ago. And it is a fun twist on a murder mystery, like a cozy murder mystery. And I have very much been into cozy and murder mysteries recently. But for some reason, this one feels like a lot of work. It's like, it's probably not. I don't know. I don't know. I've heard mixed reviews on it. It doesn't really interest me. It's just whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm making a mistake with this one, but I don't think, like, I think probably this would be like 3 stars for me, and that just doesn't really excite me. So I'm just gonna pass it on. Next up, we have I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. This came out in July. I've never read Stephen Graham Jones, but if I was going to read a Stephen Graham Jones, I want to read The Only Good Indians, and I actually do have that on my TBR shelf, and I do plan to read it someday. This one I am not interested in because this is in the genre of like the 90s horror movie realm. There's a lot of those books coming out recently. There was like horror movie and like Silver Nitrate, like there's like a lot of books in this genre, and I have never been a fan of those movies, so I don't think I would really be a fan of the book. I also know that Stephen Graham Jones does really campy, over the top stuff, and you kind of have to be in the know. You have to like really understand what he's doing, and I just don't think that I would be that reader. So yeah, not for me. Next up, I have The Stardust Grail from Yumi Kitsui, author of The Deep Sky. I was kind of interested in picking up The Deep Sky, but I never did. And I heard it was good, but I don't know. Sci-fi does not really call to me, and this really doesn't call to me. This is like, I don't even know what this is. This is like even more sci-fi than The Deep Sky. This is about aliens and everything, and just, I have no interest in this at all, so goodbye. And the last book I have here, that is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. A romance? I know a lot of people loved 7 Year Slip by this author, so people were very excited to pick this one up. And I thought, you know what, I could be in the mood for a romance, maybe. If you know me, you know that literally never happens. But I thought, I was being optimistic. Maybe this could be the one. But then the reviews started rolling in, and people have not loved this one as much as 7 Year Slip. And also, reading the synopsis, this is about a woman who is like transported into the fictional world of her favorite like love romance book, and so it is this like magical real. I mean, I know that Ashley Poston does, 7 Year Slip is also magical element to it. That's not interesting to me. Nothing about this is my style, so it's just not for me. Okay, there you go. That's my big stack of books I'm unhauling. I can't even hold them all. There's a good number here. I am excited because I get to take these and give them to a local new and used bookstore. They can resell them. I think there are going to be some very happy patrons of that store when they see these brand spanking new. Some of them I have like not even opened at all. So they are like brand new books that they can get for a cheaper price because I'm selling them to the bookstore. And then also I get some bookstore credit, which is great because I can use them to buy books that I'm actually really genuinely interested in. And that makes me really happy, So that is that. Let me know if you are interested in me doing a book haul video. I don't do a lot of them because I don't know, I just don't feel like it's really necessary to come on and like show all the books, all the things I've accumulated. But every once in a while, I do like to watch a book haul. I do like to participate in a book haul. I did one after Christmas last year. That was the last time I did a book haul, but I have acquired a number of books at this point. So let me know if you are interested in what I have picked up recently. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, week, month, and year, and I will see you back here next time. Thanks so much. Bye.